Okay, got a quick update. Been working on the Camaro. Doesn't look like it. Just sanding and sanding and sanding. A lot of the car is ready for paint. Just got to touch up a few little spots. Been working on some other pieces. This front valence panel and the spoiler. The spoiler's kind of kicked my butt. It wasn't a new spoiler. It was a used spoiler, and there was like 4 layers of paint on it, and it was in pretty rough shape. I think I have it pretty much ready to go, pretty much straight, and should be ready to go into paint here. Been struggling sanding it. Had to get a little bit creative, using an old pool noodle and with some sandpaper stuck to it. Seemed to fit this contour pretty nice, and kind of going in that same X pattern and going back and forth and rolling it as I go to try to keep it random to where I was keeping it flat instead of working in one spot. The valence panel was a little tough too. You notice too, I used some different primer on it. I was trying to use up some old stuff that I had before it goes bad. And I tell you what, I really like the buff color sanding a lot better than the gray. The buff is a lot easier to see the low spots because they're a lot darker. When you're sanding the gray, it all pretty much looks the same. So I'm really happy with the buff color that the rest of the car is, and a lot easier to sand, a lot easier to see what I'm doing and where I'm at without using as much guide coat. So I think from now on I will probably always use buff if I do any other future projects. Something else you can kind of see, got some piping set up in my garage here. I'm building a kind of makeshift paint booth. I'm going to cover everything in plastic, and then I'll have 2 big fans over here in the corner, giving it positive pressure, and get some filters over here. And I'll have the garage door open, and hopefully keep this environment nice and clean. I have done okay painting without a booth and just painting it in my garage and trying to clean everything up and seal it off as best I can. But when I did my Falcon, I did have a couple bugs land in the paint. You can't hardly see them now that I've buffed it and sanded them out, but this car, I really want it to be perfect. I want it to be as good as possible, so I'm trying to keep as much crap out of it as I can by hopefully this paint booth will provide that protection. Need to get some plastic around it, and hopefully that will do the trick. Something else I want to mention, like with primer, as I'm sanding, like the goal is not to do as much primer as possible. Honestly, I like to have as little primer on the car as possible because you don't want a really thick foundation of primer. It makes your foundation weak, I feel. So as you've seen me do a lot of coats of primer, it's not because I want to have a lot of primer, it's just because I'm trying to get it as flat as possible, and I need more primer to fill the low spots. It's not that I'm trying to get as much primer on as possible. That's not the goal. I'm trying to get it as smooth as possible. Most of the primer I've sanded off. That's why there's some spots that you can actually still see metal, or I got filler poking through there. That's not the goal. The goal is to keep it flat. Little primer as possible is always the goal. But anyway, wanted to touch on that. Hood is ready to go, kind of tucked away here in the corner. It is ready for paint. The front nose piece is ready for paint. Those little fender extensions. My next step, get these fenders off and get those ready, get the doors off, get those ready, and I will be ready for paint pretty much. I may need to do some work on these inner wheel wells because they'll also get some paint. They just need to be scuffed up and they will be ready. Need to seam seal the cowl as well still, and then get some more rust out of the windshield frame. There's a little bit left in there, as you can see. Just little small traces of rust that I need to get out, and then be ready for some epoxy on that. Working on these little panels here in the quarters and the inside quarters. Try to get those nice and smooth and straight. But anyway, this piece is also ready. This little cowl piece. Trunk is ready for paint. Quarters are ready for paint. The doors aren't quite ready. The back tail panel is ready for paint. Getting very, very close. So hopefully within the next couple weeks, depending on my schedule, how things go, I might be able to start doing some paint. I might paint a few pieces like this nose piece and or the valence and the nose piece here in the near future, just to kind of see how the booth is going to work. I want to get it set up and see how that's going to work, because the booth may not work the way I'm hoping to. So I may do a few little pieces just to see how it's going to work out, and yeah, we'll see. But just want to give a quick update. I've been working, sanding, as always. This is just how it goes, but we're almost there. Paint will be shot here shortly. Thanks.